interconnected to what happens at the SBP and the SECP level, and that PSX will follow through. Now that leaves us one with entities that have, ab initio, their businesses are not compliant. So obviously that will remain a smaller portion of the market, whether it's media, whether it's tobacco, whether it's alcohol. So obviously barring that, everything should naturally, when we achieve the 100% compliance, should become a Sharia compliant entity. The other part is then how does the stock exchange's own dealings converted to Sharia compliant? Now the SECP is working towards T+1, for example. I think if we at some stage reach T+0, then obviously the day trading matter, which is otherwise not allowed under a Sharia compliant economy, that can get resolved. The other work that will need to go on into is probably a financing product, because that's also almost non-existent. Yes, there is a mode of Sharia compliant share financing that exists today, but really not a lot of volume goes through that. So I think that's the other part that will need to happen. So I think in some ways PSX life is easier, that the investable universe is probably going to be driven by what happens at the other regulator levels. What PSX needs to work on is probably eventually move to T+0 and also work out ways of Sharia compliant financing. So I think that will take PSX to where we ideally want it to be on 100% compliance.
Thank you. Atif Saab, coming to you, you mentioned about one of the challenges of not having the sukuk for full conversion. What are the other challenges, in addition to that, what are the other challenges or the opportunities in terms of full conversion or transformation?
Certainly, apart from the sukuks, availability of sukuks, the other challenge is that, the expertise of Islamic banking. In the banking industry in Pakistan, the total number of employees are about 200,000. 50,000 are working in Islamic banking. 150,000 are working in conventional banking. And these 150,000 bankers generally are among that segment of the society who are not very convinced that Islamic banking is really Islamic or not. So if we expect those conventional bankers to be providing Islamic banking services going forward, two things are very important. Number one, they need to be trained on Islamic banking, and then they should be very convinced that this is the real Islamic banking. Because this is not the only time Pakistan is trying to convert the entire industry into Islamic. We have made a mistake once in 1984, where with one stroke of pen of the highest authority in the country, the entire banking system was converted into PLS banking. And later on, that was 1984. And then in 1992, the Supreme Court Sharia Tribunal declared that un-Islamic, because there was not proper products and Sharia compliance mechanisms backing that system. So this new Islamic banking system was formed. So in fact, we are not converting from conventional banking to Islamic. We are converting from an old Islamic banking system to a new Islamic banking system. Because what we call conventional banking today, it is not really conventional because it does not have the word interest in it. The word interest was removed in 1984, and in 1992, when it was declared un-Islamic, interest was not reintroduced. It was not reverted to 1984 level. So the challenge remains of the trust. It is very important that if we are converting, the trust of the people on the Islamic banking should be reinforced. That this is not just a regulatory requirement that the entire industry is being converted. This is really a riba-free system to which Pakistan is adopting. As far as the opportunities are concerned, I think Islamic banking is, or rather, we should look at Islamic banking in the overall context of Sharia compliance economy. And I will say that since we are part of the Dalla Group of Saudi Arabia, which also has Islamic Chamber of Commerce and Development as an associate body, which works for the socio-economic uplift of 57 Islamic countries, its headquarters is based in Karachi. And one of the subjects on which Islamic banking, Islamic Chamber of Commerce and Development works is the global halal economy. And there's a big conference that is held every year in Makkah. It's called Makkah Halal Forum. Since I'm a regular participant of that conference, and since this new management took over Al Baraka Bank, and we have closely allied with Islamic Chamber of Commerce and Development, we are trying to align Pakistan with the global halal economy. And in fact, if we look at Islamic banking conversion in the context of total halal global economy, not just banking, but overall halal economy, I think that provides opportunities for Pakistan's biggest economic challenges also. For example, I can give a few numbers regarding global halal economy. Halal economy basically comprises of four segments. Halal protein, which is $1 trillion of global consumption, and this includes all kind of meat. The largest global trader is Brazil, exporter, $10 billion per year. Second is Australia. Third is Indonesia. Fourth is India with $4 billion exports. Pakistan is $500 million export. Second is halal pharmaceutical and halal cosmetics, $250 billion international trade. Pakistan contribution is 0. Third is halal tourism. Halal tourism is now $250 billion of international global spending per year. In Pakistan, everything is halal, but not a single hotel, resort or restaurant is certified halal. So the global halal tourists, Pakistan is out of their radar. Even in Bangkok, 50% of the 5-star hotels are today halal certified. In Turkey, 60% of their hotels are certified halal. But Pakistan is missing out in their $250 billion. The fourth is halal fashion. Halal fashion is $405 billion annual trade, and Pakistan, despite being a champion of textile, has 0 contribution in halal fashion. So what we are doing is, along with Islamic Chamber of Commerce and Development, we held one seminar in Lahore, invited 130 leading companies and explained the halal dynamics, global economy. Second, we held in Karachi. About 170 leading companies were invited. And third, we held a workshop on halal fashion, a full-day workshop in Karachi. So what we are trying to do is encouraging the Pakistan's very strong and successful retail textile sector to start exploring the halal fashion. So the latest being, the largest halal conference is being held in London this month, and we are taking about 10 leading textile companies from Pakistan and also some food product companies to that conference under Pakistan Pavilion, to start aligning Pakistan with this halal economy. So for Pakistan conversion, this is halal is also a solution, because if $35 trillion rupees of PIBs cannot be converted into sukuks, then a robust growth of halal segments in Pakistan will provide financing opportunity for the Islamic banks, and hence compensate for that lack of instruments from the government side. And if you look at the opportunity, yes, because Pakistan's exports are $30 billion. 10 years ago, exactly in 2014, our export was $25 billion. So we have not grown in 10 years. Bangladesh was $30 billion in 2014. They are today $51 billion. So if Pakistan, actually, halal and Islamic banking is an opportunity for Pakistan's economy to undertake robust growth, externally through exports and internally in the form of financial inclusion. Because out of 150 million adults in Pakistan, there are only 91 million bank accounts. And out of those 91 million bank accounts, 40 million are dormant. So actually we have 50 million accounts in Pakistan for 150 million adults. And the single most important reason that all the surveys have come up with is for unbanked or people shying away from coming to banking is the fear of riba. Islamic banking, that is the actually solution for and an opportunity for financial inclusion and documentation of economy as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Atif. You have given a very different perspective actually, and very interesting perspective that it is not just Islamic banking and finance. We have to look at the entire halal market, and these are the different segments which have a low hanging fruit, very good opportunities that Pakistan can utilize. Imtiaz, taking a cue from what Atif just mentioned about unbanked sector and basically our inability to reach out to the masses through the traditional means, how do you think digitization or technology can actually help to reach out the participants in capital markets to reach out to the far-flung areas in the country?
So I think it's probably not just Islamic finance matter, it's probably a finance matter in general.
Yeah.
You need a financial inclusion, you need people to understand what are the options that are available, you need to break through those glass ceilings. And digitization obviously makes it very easy. Through social media, you can reach to areas that were not considered feasible earlier at a very, very reasonable cost. So that's really opening up avenues. Sorry. But what that has also done is that if you look at whatever new products have been brought into the market, the underlying demand has been Sharia compliant. And no one better than this panel to know yourself that if you look at the banking sector deposits, what 23-25% are still Islamic. Asset management came in later, but the new product had higher Islamic demand. Today 45 to 50% of the assets under management are Islamic. If you look at REITs, for example, that came up recently, everybody is targeting a Sharia compliant REIT now. So what digitization can help really expedite this process is introduce new people to finance. And we've seen that the underlying tendency of Pakistanis is to prefer Sharia compliance where there is available. And again, going back to the mutual fund industry example, that we know that the sukuks give you a lower return than the conventional bills. So in some ways, the fixed income market for Sharia compliant has been giving you a lower return, but still it's attracted a bigger percentage of people. So aided by digitization, aided by a better reach, as we introduce people to more financial concepts, I think the latent demand for Sharia compliant products just will break through, and that could really be the tipping point that takes it from a supply driven to a demand driven Sharia compliant economy or a Sharia compliant financial market.
Thank you. Mufti Sahab, coming to you, Atif just mentioned that there are about 200,000 bankers in the country, out of which only 50,000 are working for Islamic bank or in Islamic products, and those who are not who are on the conventional side, they still have doubts. I think it's not certainly confined to those people, but generally, if you look at the people generally in the masses, also many people still have doubts about the Sharia authenticity of Islamic financial institutions. So can you suggest some strategy to actually educate them, to make them aware how Islamic finance is different from conventional?
Actually, in our country and in our community, perception prevails. We are not guided by knowledge, we are guided by our own perception. So this perception cannot be corrected unless you spread knowledge and awareness. So awareness is very important at all levels, and it should start from our education system, because we don't know the difference between Islamic and non-Islamic. And sometimes I don't call it Islamic, I rather say acceptable to Sharia. It is not necessary that everything which is conventional is non-Islamic. Something is very conventional, very new and newly invented, but because there is no Sharia harm in it, it is acceptable. Like this water, it is not something, it is conventional, but it is Sharia compliant. So we must know the difference between what is allowed and what is not allowed. And when we talk about financial arrangements, so the financial arrangements basically are allowed. All financial arrangements are allowed except those which are prohibited by Sharia. And Sharia has listed down don'ts. So if we understand those don'ts, we can identify between what is Islamic and what is non-Islamic, and what is acceptable to Sharia and what is not acceptable to Sharia. So our perception is that what is required by Sharia is 180-degree different from conventional. No. That is why what is being perceived as Islamic is just the result of the correction process. We need to correct the conventional system, and the outcome will be Islamic. So this should be taught in educational institutions and in financial institutions, and obviously till very long time awareness and education will remain very important. So this is the challenge, and this is the requirement for conversion, not to correct documents, but to teach people what is Islamic and what is non-Islamic, and the basic things should be elaborated first.
Thank you, Mufti Sahib. I'll ask you a follow-up question, Mufti Sahib, on this education part. So if you look at the traditional, again, it's not conventional, I would not call it conventional because you said don't use the word conventional. I would say the traditional teaching system or the education system in the country, which is normal A levels, O levels, matriculation, BCom, etc., university level, there's very little awareness, very little education which is being given on the Islamic finance or Islamic capital markets. On the other hand, we have, mashallah, a complete system of becoming an alim through different programs. So again, how can we have a convergence between the two, and collectively what efforts can we make actually to bring in some of the aspects of the Islamic teachings or Islamic finance education to the conventional system? Because if we have to go to 100% Islamic finance and Islamic capital markets, certainly we need the people who are aware of it and who understand it. And as you rightly said, now perception is prevailing over the reality. So any thoughts on this, please?
The actual solution is to correct your curriculum and add these things in your curriculum. But because it is a long journey, so I think the middle way is that this responsibility should be borne by financial institutions, those financial institutions that are offering Sharia compliant products. They should come up and teach the community and create write-ups and videos, and to define simply, in simple words, without using complicated terminologies, what is Islamic and what is non-Islamic, and what is the basic Sharia requirement for a financial transaction to become Sharia compliant, minimum Sharia compliant, and what is the riba. Sometimes we confuse between interest and riba and sood and riba. Actually, Sharia has not prohibited, please bear my words, Sharia has not prohibited interest. Sharia hasn't prohibited sood. Sharia has prohibited riba. And riba cannot be translated to interest or cannot be translated to sood, because riba is a terminology, and a terminology should be understood rather translated. So it is very important, I think this is the core, to understand what is riba, which was prohibited by Quran. And sometimes we consider something which is not riba, maybe it is considered interest. So we, for example, calculating profit against time or time value of money. Mere time value of money is not riba, but maybe it is considered as interest. So what is prohibited by Sharia and what is allowed by Sharia this knowledge should be spread, and I think this gap should be filled by financial institutions, and because they are in market, they should take this responsibility.
Thank you, Mufti Sahab. Very interesting. Atif, coming to you about this lack of human resources or the manpower actually. MashaAllah, Al Baraka Bank is in different countries and you have experienced international experience as well. So compared to other markets, how do you see the bankers or the professionals in Pakistan as in terms of awareness about the Islamic finance and capital markets? Are we lagging far behind, or are we somewhere in the middle? Are we among the top 3? Any idea on that?
Well, generally, Pakistan banking is considered very mature. We are in 13 countries, mostly North Africa, South Africa, Turkey, Bahrain, and now opening in Saudi Arabia. So Pakistan banking industry overall is considered very mature. I think as far as Islamic banking awareness is concerned, we are also quite high. Okay. Nevertheless, the challenges that we have, like I said, is very unique. In none of these countries, except Sudan, there's a dual system in all these countries. But Islamic banking is never questioned or it's not challenged the way it is in Pakistan. And the reason I said was the same reason that we had a failed attempt in 1984, and that is in the people's memory, and people still ask that how it is confirmed that this one is the right one, not the older one. So generally, as far as your question, knowledge is concerned, our knowledge base is quite high. Okay. We have a very high reputation because of Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab and Darul Uloom Karachi, who has produced the world-renowned scholars on Islamic banking. So yes, we are ranked quite high in Sharia knowledge.
Thank you. Atif, I have a follow-up question to you about this course correction. So we are all talking about this transformation by end of 2027 or 1st January 2028 to transform the complete system, financial system. But certainly it's an end in itself as well, but it's a means to an end as well. So what is it in Pakistan? What do you see there's a benefit of doing this? Certainly we say we are moving in that direction. Inshallah we will be 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, or inshallah at one point in time, inshallah we will be 100% as well. How do you see it to benefit the country?
Like I said, I see this as a very promising opportunity because if our banking industry is only 20% banked, it means a proper Sharia compliant conversion can multiply the banking industry at least, it has the potential to multiply it by 5 times. So whatever we see the size of the banks today, they're only 20% of its real potential. And I'm not talking about how much new adults we are adding to the population. About 5 million teenagers are being added to adulthood every year. And banking industry is not opening 3 to 4 million accounts per year. So this unbanked is the potential of Pakistan in terms of its documentation, in terms of its financial inclusion. But like I said, we should look at Islamic banking conversion as a whole in the context of halal economy. And it is so huge. I'm very optimistic that actually Islamic banking coupled with the alignment with the global halal economy can change the complete outlook of Pakistan's economy. I can just repeat the numbers. Textiles exports of Pakistan are $20 billion. Halal fashion is $400 billion. If we target 5% of that $400 billion in 5 years, that means doubling of textile sector in 5 years. Now that has not happened in last 20 years. So that also then aligns with the opportunity for assets of Islamic banking industry. So I think the solution lies in the whole ecosystem of halal and Islamic banking for Pakistan, not only for the conversion purpose, but for the robust economic growth and exports of Pakistan as well. So I'm very optimistic about this.
Thank you. Mufti sir, talking about the other Muslim countries like Malaysia. So Malaysia has kind of achieved harmony in its financial sector through a very well structured Sharia governance framework. And the framework has evolved in Pakistan as well over the years. But what do you think, how can Pakistan adopt a unified Sharia governance approach, because we have different fiqh, different people, and we have a very big population which carries different views. So we have to take care of the diversity of thought as well. What are your thoughts about this?
Alhamdulillah, we have already achieved this. The framework which is being in practice since several years is more or less agreed by all Sharia scholars representing diverse school of thoughts. And we are gradually adopting Sharia standards issued by AOFI, and Sharia standards of AOFI are globally acceptable, and I think there is no big difference between scholars, and they generally agree. Yes, there is a segment of scholars in all schools of thought who don't agree with the very basic structure of banking. So they obviously question Islamic banking as well. But that is not something related with halal and haram. That is rather related with what is more beneficial and what should be desirable. So I think we have already achieved this level.
MashaAllah. So just the closing reflections, we will talk about a couple of things because we have been asked to conclude the session in 5 minutes. If we meet again in 2028, what would success look like to each of you? Atif, starting from you.
I'll say the best effort from all stakeholders to achieve the ultimate goal. Government has already established a committee, high-level committee. I can tell from State Bank, since we interact with Central Bank a lot, they are trying their best to get as many branches possible converted into Islamic. But I will again say that the financial inclusion and the exports of Pakistan, that the solution lies with Islamic banking and the overall halal economy. So I would say that if the economy has started diverting towards the halal economy, especially the halal tourism and the halal fashion, these two segments can really uplift the Pakistan's economy, and in the process there will be abundant assets available for the Islamic banks to convert to whatever pace they like. So that will be the alternate, that will set the tone for the alternate asset building to the government bonds. And if we have undertaken that path, I think that will be a success story. Numbers can then be achieved in due course.
Thank you. Imtiaz?
So I think what would success look like if we look back at it in a couple of years, I think, and it's the joint responsibility of all of us, is that it is a system that is owned and accepted by everyone. So, you know, how will that be achieved? There's a lot of work that has been done in Islamic finance in terms of the what and the how. That what makes an instrument Islamic, how is this transaction going to be Sharia compliant. I think one of the things that we need to also work on as we head into 2028 is the why. You know, all of us need to be able to convince the general population that why is this Islamic system the best of the alternates available? Why is this less exploitative? Why is this less speculative? Why is this more asset backed? So I think real success would look like we enter into 2028, and if not all, at least a very, very big majority of the population also believes that we are heading into a system that is the best of the alternates available, rather than accepting it half-heartedly. I think the responsibility lies on all of us to achieve this success.
I think we should focus on the complete ecosystem of Islamic finance, not only Islamic banks or banking. There is ecosystem which should work all together, and we should focus on that ecosystem, and the complete ecosystem, I mean banks, insurance, and mutual asset management companies, investment and companies, they should move forward, and they should focus on achieving Sharia compliance. And the other point is that, Alhamdulillah, we have spent too many years on correction and on documentation and on how to achieve minimum Sharia compliance. So Alhamdulillah, structures are there. Now we should focus on the adding value. So the consumer should realize and see that what is being offered with the name of Islamic, whether it is banking or non-banking, it has real value for him. So it should attract, and that is why you can increase the inclusion. Otherwise, I don't think that mere conversion will help people to move to Islamic.
Okay, that's great. So if I were to sum up the discussion today, certainly, as Atif Sahab mentioned, that we have to move, not focus just on the Islamic financial ecosystem, but on the entire halal industry. At the same time, it's a journey. It's not a transition from one day. If we are not 25% Islamic and tomorrow or in 2 years we'll be 100% Islamic. It's a journey. We have to create awareness about it, and the consumer and actually the user of the Islamic ecosystem has to understand the benefits of that, the awareness about the products, the understanding that the product is genuinely Islamic, and also we need to prepare the manpower, because if we don't have the manpower, we will not be able to implement it. And of course, one of the points which is very important is that there is sufficient availability of financial assets. So with these words, I would like to close the session, and thank you very much for sparing time for it. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much. Shoaib sir, आप सवाल पूछना चाह रहे हैं? जी, quick one. We just have time for one question.
Thank you very much. मुफ्ती साहब से मेरा एक सवाल है कि सर अभी आपने ये इरशाद फरमाया कि हमारे यहाँ परसेप्शन और नॉलेज, हम परसेप्शन पर या फॉलो हम ज़्यादा लोगों को करते हैं, तो सर ये हमारे यहाँ जो मौजूदा सेटअप है शरिया एडवाइजरी बोर्ड्स हैं, क्या ये तमाम मकातब फ़िक्र को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं? अगर करते हैं तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, अगर नहीं करते तो आप या शरिया बोर्ड्स जो हैं इसके लिए क्या इक़दाम किए? एक आतिफ साहब से सवाल मेरा छोटा सा और है कि सर आपने जिस तरह से स्कोप ऑफ हलाल फाइनेंस के बारे में बताया, तो सर ये बताएं, कुछ लोग तो ये समझते हैं कि ये इस्लामिक जो फाइनेंस है ये एक चैलेंज है, तो आपकी गुफ्तगू से ये लगा कि ये चैलेंज नहीं है, ये एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है जिसको अवेल करना चाहिए। तो सर ये बताएं कि हमारी जो रेगुलेटर्स हैं इस्लामिक स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान और SCCP, ये इसके फ़रोग़ के लिए क्या इक़दाम कर रही है? क्या आप इससे मुतमईन हैं? ये दो सवाल मेरे हैं सर, दोनों हज़रात से। थैंक यू।
बहुत शुक्रिया।
देखिए, ये जो एक परसेप्शन है, ये भी एक परसेप्शन है, तासुर है कि हमारे यहाँ जो है मुख्तलिफ़ मकातिब फ़िक्र हैं और उनके दरमियान जो है वो बहुत सारे मामलात में इल्मी और फ़िक़ही इख्तलाफ है, तो शायद इस्लामिक बैंकिंग के अंदर भी ये इख्तलाफ होगा। फॉर्चुनेटली खुशकिस्मती है कि यहाँ पर ऐसा कोई इख्तलाफ जो है वो नहीं है, और जो फ्रेमवर्क बना हुआ है, जो स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं, उसको सब एग्री करते हैं। वजह उसकी ये है कि ये जो इख्तलाफ राय है ये ज़्यादातर अक़ाइद में, इबादात में जो है वो ज़्यादा ज़ाहिर होता है। ये मामलात के अंदर, फाइनेंशियल अरेंजमेंट्स के अंदर जो है वो इतना इख्तलाफ नहीं है, और स्टैंडर्ड्स को सब जो है वो एग्री करते हैं। और मुख्तलिफ़ मकातिब फ़िक्र की रिप्रेजेंटेशन से ज़्यादा अहम जो है वो ये है कि इसके अंदर अहल लोग आएँ जिनके पास तजुर्बा है और जो इन चीज़ों को समझते हैं। तो वो डिमांड सप्लाई के ऊपर बेस करता है, और जैसी सप्लाई डिमांड होगी वैसी सप्लाई होगी। और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अभी तक जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं इंडस्ट्री के अंदर, शरिया बोर्ड्स के अंदर, मुख्तलिफ़ मकातिब फ़िक्र से हैं और जो है वो पढ़ भी रहे हैं और अच्छी सप्लाई भी जो है वो मौजूद है। तो उसको जो है बजाय इसके कि रेगुलेटर उसमें कोई कंडीशन लगाए, उसको आज़ाद रखना चाहिए। ये एक एक्सपर्टी है, ये एक सलाहियत है, इसका जो है वो किसी कोटे से, किसी मकतब फ़िक्र से इसका ताल्लुक़ नहीं।
बहुत शुक्रिया मुफ्ती साहब, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
Answer is कि State Bank is of course very committed to promotion of Islamic banking, और ये पूरी conversion को तो drive ही State Bank कर रहे हैं। और जहाँ तक आपने awareness का कहा, तो State Bank is also leading the major industry-wide marketing campaign of Islamic banking and Islamic banking products and services. और ट्रेनिंग के ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा फोकस है स्टेट बैंक का। दे आर रेगुलेटिंग कि सब बैंक्स जो हैं इस्लामिक बैंकिंग की ट्रेनिंग तक अपने स्टाफ को एक सर्टन नंबर ऑफ डेज़ पर ईयर, वो इवन नंबर ऑफ डेज़ भी काउंटेड हैं जो हमें रिपोर्ट करने पड़ते हैं। और जहाँ तक हलाल का ताल्लुक है, तो जो हमारी आवर मेन कॉन्फ्रेंस इन कराची जो विच वाज ऑन हलाल इकोनॉमी, द chairperson was Deputy Governor State Bank Mr. Salimullah साहब, so they are of course supporting the halal economy as well.
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। पॉसिटी ऑफ टाइम की वजह से हम ज़्यादा क्वेश्चंस नहीं ले सके, बट वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू ऑल द पैनलिस्ट्स ऑल्सो, एंड एज दे ऑल मेंशन राइटली दैट Islamic banking should reflect the true spirit of Islam, true value of Islam. Now we'll have a quick souvenir presentation, and I would like to call upon stage Global Chief Economist ACCA, Mr. Jonathan Ashworth. If you could join us on stage, sir, to present the souvenirs. And Ms. Farina Mazhar, who is the Chief Public Engagements Officer, Nutshell. And Major General Retired Shehzad Naeem Saab, Chief Public Affairs Officer. Can we have you both on stage also? Thank you. Okay, our first souvenir is for Mufti Muhammad Hassan Kaleem, who is the Sharia advisor on board of 10 companies. Mufti Sahab, aap. Then up next we have Muhammad Atif Hanif Saab, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Al Baraka Bank Pakistan Limited. Mr. Imtiaz Gadar, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Al Mizan Investment Management Limited. And finally, Mr. Muhammad Shoaib, who moderated this session, who is the CEO and co-founder, Lucky Investments Limited. All right, time for a group photograph, please. I would request all the guests on the stage to pose for the official group photograph. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the panelists, the moderator, and all the honorable guests who joined us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a very quick move to the next session, which again is a very, very interesting one with some amazing panelists who are amongst us right now. The session, it's a fireside chat on Beyond Stability, Crafting the Next Economic Playbook. So basically this conference, course correction, is about rewriting the narrative, moving from reactive fixes to proactive transformation. What kind of sustainable steps we can take today to make a better, brighter, and prosperous future. Our next session, this Beyond Stability, Crafting the Next Economic Playbook, brings together some of Pakistan's sharpest economic minds to discuss how we can pivot from surviving uncertainty to building a sustainable, inclusive, and future-ready economy. May I introduce the panelists to you, please? I would request them to join me on stage, one by one. First of all, we have Syed Muhammad Shabbar Zaidi Saab, who's an author, economic analyst, and has been the 26th chairman of Federal Board of Revenue. He's also served as president ICAP. So if you can join us on stage, please. Thank you very much. Shabbar Saab is known for his candid views, very bold, upfront views, and it's an honor to have him here today. Next up, we have Mr. Khurram Hussain, who's a senior journalist, business and economy. We've all read his articles. A very respected journalist and economic analyst. He's known for his sharp insights on fiscal policy, governance, and development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Khurram Hussain. And finally, we have Mr. Ali Khizar, who is the Director's Research Business Recorder. Business Recorder is, we all know, all the business people, that's an amazing newspaper which publishes to the point, upright, candid news and editorials. So we have Mr. Ali Khizar with ourselves. He's got 2 decades of experience in economic analysis, and he leads the business research offering data-driven insights into Pakistan's economy. So, and this fireside chat is going to be moderated by Mr. Asad Hamid Khan, who is the country head ACCA Pakistan. He is going to moderate it. He is a seasoned professional accountant with 23 years in leadership, and he has steered regulatory, corporate, and policy transformation initiatives wherever he went. Ladies and gentlemen, I hand over the mic to Mr. Asad Hamid Khan.
So before we start the session, can we just test the mics, please? Check. So Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you Aswat for allowing me to moderate this wonderful session. It's such a great I would say closure as we come to the end of this summit, having seen the journey starting with the policymakers, sharing their conversations around what in their view is the course correction, moving on, hearing from the businesses what they believe is their journey towards redefining the business playbook. So we have picked up on themes of climate, we have picked up on themes of sustainability, we have picked up on digital, we have picked up on AI, and now it's all about crafting the next economic playbook. So what is it beyond stability? Today's conversations, as you can see from the panelists, so welcome once again Shabbar Saab, Ali Khizar and Khurram. I do understand it will be a very bold conversation. The idea is how do we transition from short-term fixes to long-term value and growth. The conversation, there were some commonalities that we experienced, and we were able to gather from all the conversations from business and government leadership, clearly stating and agreeing that Pakistan is at that juncture where fiscal stabilization must evolve into a new growth narrative. There's this call out from everyone for a transformative rethink that how Pakistan grows, competes, and governs its economy, which renews the contract, the social contract between the state, the businesses, and the citizens. Today's fireside chat, I think, is not merely a diagnosis of the challenges, but I'm sure that once we conclude the session, we are able to highlight that urgent, bold shift that is required from where we are, which many believe, many have commented, is an outdated, import-dependent, consumption-led, rent-seeking, and crisis-driven patterns, and how we can move towards productivity-based, export-oriented, and innovation-led, and why? So that we're able to rebuild the investor confidence, develop our most important capital as a nation, which is the human capital, and obviously create more reasons for the economy to grow. So our diverse panel needs no introduction, but it's a wonderful national, I would say, these are three forces that shape the national discourse, where you have at one end, you have the economist, a person who has an eye on the data. One end you have the policy person with Mr. Shabir Zaidi, and in between we have our business and economic journalists. So, starting our panel discussion today, so it'll be great to hear from all of you that when we say course correction, what we really mean in Pakistan's context. Is it about rebalancing priorities, redesigning systems, or is it about rediscovering purposes? So if I can start with Khurram Hussain, yourself.
I'll say a little bit of all and maybe some of none. Two things that have got to be understood, I think, by people who run our state. One is that there are some areas in which the state is involved that they have got to learn to let go of and to pull out from. I'll give you one example over here, which is the setting of electricity prices, for example. I think this template, which was developed in the late 1990s, with cost plus pricing and IPPs and capacity payments, and all of that is now being rendered outdated very, very rapidly. And they are discovering this in Islamabad. They're finding out that a renewable energy revolution is sweeping the world. It has landed on Pakistan's shores. It is transforming the power generation landscape in very important ways. But rather than learn how to ride this wave and rather than learn how to tap into its energies, what they are trying to do is their impulses are to try and hold it back because they think or they see it as a threat to how they do business in Islamabad. And that's something that they have to now learn, that the world is changing in these areas, in places like energy and power generation, in fundamental ways, and they need to learn to change with it. And one of the changes they need to bring about is realize that the role of the government in the energy sector has to change, and that change involves a retreat, a withdrawal. Let private energies, whether of households or even of private capital, increasingly start to take over, manage that transition rather than trying to hold it back. But there are other examples where the state needs to learn that some of the things we have been holding on to for the past many decades are a liability, or that those are things that we need to learn how to hand over. And so this is very important. But even more important than this, let me be perfectly frank here, that there are two things that you cannot, under any circumstances, tamper with when you are running the state. One is the people's mandate, expressed through an election, and the other is the Constitution. You can amend and change the Constitution by all means, but you shouldn't be tampering with it in order to troubleshoot short-term issues and short-term problems. Now, and when you do that, when you do either one of these two things, you land up in a very strange place where you've got all the power and not really much of a sense of what to do with it, where power begins to serve itself, where shoring up your own power and securing it from competition from outside, from within, from whatever, becomes a bigger priority than finding ways to make power more effective within your country. And that's where we are right now, because we've done both of these things, not just one. And I'll give you one example in how that's landed up in a strange place over here. Just look at how this particular government, after having been in power almost 2 years, their idea of reform on the fiscal front, for example, includes things like looking through Instagram and YouTube videos for evidence of people who are spending too much money and then serving them notices. That is their fiscal effort, to try and raise the next generation of revenues with which to finance their expenditures and with which to bridge their deficits. It's absurd. That's the strange place in which they've landed up. Look at how the only reform effort we have seen in the power sector, for example, is an attempt to try and sell electricity at marginal cost to industrial producers for the next 3 years under some package that they call Roshan Maishat or something like that. Talk to any, I mean, this room has enough business and industry people in it, anyone associated with manufacturing, and ask them how much of an impact is this package going to make to your cash flows, and you'll have your answer. You can't possibly find your way forward in this world with this kind of a setup.
No, thank you, Khurram. So your focus is more on, again, the structural reforms, pivoting on the energy transition from more public sector to private sector. You've talked about the legislative and constitutional focus when it comes to implementation. So moving over to Ali Khizr, the same question to yourself. When we say course correction, what do we really mean in Pakistan's context?
Well, as Khurram rightly pointed out, that the government ideas are outdated, and I would say that the government is kind of clueless in terms of where to move from there. So we kind of stuck in an economic model which is outdated, and we failed that model for the past 30 odd years. And all what the government is doing is to prolong the stabilization. So that stabilization is we run a tight monetary policy. Do we have a choice to not run a tight monetary policy, not running a 3 to 4 plus real interest rate? No. They have to run a tight fiscal policy. They have a primary fiscal surplus for the past 2 years, and we are projected to have another year. So do we have a choice to move away from that? No. So when you run those tight fiscal and monetary policies, you cannot have growth. This is a 4th year of low growth period and stabilization. So we averted default, and then 3 straight years of stabilization, and yet we are not finding any growth. And that the frustration keeps him here and there, what to do, what not to do, what to do. And the problem is the government lacks imagination. They don't have ingenuity in terms of doing the reform. State Bank is doing what is required to be done is to stabilize the prices and let the economy to move on a slow path. It's the fiscal side, it's the government side to work on and find out some kind of a growth pattern where we could have that. What the growth pattern we had in the past is about the spending on the development, and that was there since 90s, and after 18th Amendment, provinces got more money, they spent more on development, you got more growth, you got more brick and mortar growth and all that, and you build those road and bridges and schools and universities and all those buildings. How much these buildings are yielding returns? How much that infrastructure is yielding returns in the future? Unfortunately, that's not yielding return. Those kind of a thing which we build and with the low governance is they are not yielding economic returns and all that. And we are still stuck that. We still find that model. We still want to spend on that, but pretty much the brick and mortar infrastructure. Even the talk on the digital side is about half of it is brick and mortar. And that's where we're stuck in. That's where we're stuck in. So and we don't have a money for that development either. So the kind of outdated model we had, we cannot even have that because we cannot spend. And the private sector that run on on a low interest rate, okay, well, whatever the growth we had in the Musharraf time or whatever during the CPEC time or post COVID, they were when the real rate were negative, and there was a boost in that. The currency was somehow undervalued, so overvalued. The currency was overvalued. You have negative real rates. That gives us impetus to the private sector, and private sector used to have that growth and easy run and all that. So we don't have that either. We don't have the government development side. So we are short of ideas where to find the growth. Unfortunately, both our private sector and the public sector lack imagination to grow. So where is the growth to come from? Do we need to have, we need to do the manufacturing, we need to do the exports, okay, we need to do import substitution. We throw everything under the bus, but what to do, how to do, and where to go? We don't know that. And the energy sector is the biggest mess we have, and without solving it, we cannot have that. Now the problem is the energy, we look at the energy from a very narrow perspective. We look at the energy from the power ministry, that's all. We look at the energy from the IPPs, we look at the energy from the discos. We look at the energy from the energy, from the tariffs, whether it's for the industrial tariff or the consumer tariff and all that. And we look at the energy for providing gas to the household. Like maybe gas is 10 times expensive than what the price you are providing to the household. But to solve the power sector problem, we are exacerbating the petroleum side. So, I mean, we ended up the captive, we ended up like increase the levy on the LNG. Then to get the climate resilient funding, we will put it up the levy on the furnace oil. Now these things are moving the industries away from manufacturing because the power sector is not providing the energy at the right rate. Even with this, whatever the Roshan marginal cost program, that's not really helping them. They're moving away from the grid.
Ali,
but yeah.
Ali, so thank you. You see, so we will be picking this up. So if I were to summarize, you have talked about the outdated outlook. Whether it's the public sector or the private sector, the ability not to...
So yes, I just to confine that, so we need to find a good private sector people coming up with the solution where we have power plants. Why don't we have a aluminum smelting plant? We have power plants in the south. Why don't someone from energy company would build up that? There are CEOs I know who are working on that, but the government is not supporting them. Why not we come in the export of other areas and where energy intensive areas and provide energy from where we have. So we don't think on that. We think on that outdated textile sector. We think on that outdated development sector. So we need to come out of those fixation what we had. We need to come out of those outdated failed 30-year idea to move forward and look where we can go in the next 10-15 years on what we have on the plate. So we need to start from there. Unfortunately, government and the private sector experts within the government do not think. I think it's a problem from imagination than anything else.
So thank you, Ali. So your focus on what needs to change is prolonged stabilization and lack of imagination on the growth frontier, whether it's the public or the private sector. Shabasa, your views, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think whenever we discuss the economy or the society of any country, we have to take a starting point. If you take out Pakistan and you start from 2000 to 2025, there have been times of stabilization, there have been times of difficulties, and there have been times of acute pressure. There is a substantially, relatively better time at the moment, but if you take out the index from 2000 to 2025 of Pakistan with any regional or the international level, then we all agree that it is going down. There is no second view on that. Now we have to get out of this and move this from here to here, or at least it should not further go down. If you sit down with the parliamentarians, if you sit down with the IMF, if you sit down with people like you, if you sit down with the with the economists and journalists, all of them agree on almost all the reforms or reform or all the corrections or whatever you can call them. So what we have to think seriously, irrespective of the kind of the governments we having in Islamabad from 2000 to 2025, what is the reason why this unity of or consensus of thought has not been translated into any real change? The question should be like this, that why this consensus? I am very, very clear that if I sit down with the people in Islamabad or Lahore or Faisalabad or Sialkot or anywhere, or this panel, we all agree on a consensus. We have a consensus on the economic problems of the country. There is no dispute. The question is why we are not picking up, or we are not changing. So my analysis is that first thing is that we have overused the word reform, and we have overused the word structural reforms, and we don't mean what actually we mean by that. Khizr has said a very interesting thing, and I will just relate it with reality and then I will come back to it. Khizr has said, and both Khizr and Khurram has talked about the power generation. State versus private sector. Fortunately or unfortunately, me and my friend sitting in front of me, Sohail Wajat, we are advising at the moment KE on their tariff case, which has been stayed by the High Court yesterday. I have been involved in the consultancy of power for the last 40 years. He has been involved in this business of engineering technology for the last more than 40 years. And let me candidly say to you, very candidly say to you, we sat down with the people in KE last week. It was last Thursday. And it was there we realized what is the problem of KE. It is not the question of private sector versus public sector. So I am just giving this illustration for one reason, that in our country, the primary problem is that the decisions are taken without preparations. We, as a country, we are in a hurry. We as a country are every person in a country is in a hurry. He wants to take some step that should give him results in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, year. The countries don't give economic results in 2 years, 3 years. They take decades. And I will give comparative example of Manmohan Singh's reform program in India in 1990s. They had a totally different government by the Modi, but the economic mandate, the system was not touched. It went on like the same thing. In Pakistan, we are in a hurry and we want a sensational news every day in the newspaper. If I issue a newspaper tomorrow, and say everything is okay and things are going in the right dimension, then all of you will become bored.
So Shobhit sir, on this particular
This is all of you become say, yeah, what is this rubbish? Nothing is happening. So the question is that I have seen this very closely, and I personally also, and I feel as a nation also, we should take medicine for anxiety, because we are anxious. We are anxious to have results in 5 months, in 2 months, in 3 months. And let me tell you, me and Sohail Sahab was shocked. Me and Sohail Sahab was shocked when we were seeing some certain facts about Karachi electricity. We had no clue about that.
So Shobhit sir, on this note.
So what I am trying to say, there is a consensus about the Pakistan's reform position. There is no dispute. I have played on the both sides of the wicket. I am saying there is no dispute. The only issue is that we should calm down and should not look for the results in 1 day, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Nations prosper, develop, they get results Because we are not going anywhere. This country will remain here, it will always remain here, nothing to worry about it. But the question is, if you are asking me that thing, for the argument's sake, I'll give you another live example. For argument's sake, you have seen this challan issue in this traffic challan issue by the camera. Everybody is complaining. But I am very happy that at least an electronic system has been developed in the city which is identifying a car and sending a notice that can be used for other purposes. But we are such a strange nation. We are only saying the challan, 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 challan. Okay, fair enough, this challan is wrong. I agree with you, challan is wrong. But at least a camera system has been installed and you are monitoring the cars. So that system can be used for some other productive purposes. So the question is that I would suggest that this sensationalism, this anxiety, this depressive attitude of the nation should be cured. The reforms or the things, my view is, I am a firm view, things are moving in a right direction.
Thank you very much, Abbas Saab. So I think that's, so three key themes: consensus on, and there's no dispute on the diagnosis. Hurry, not looking for short-term or quick fixes. And the final thing, that in his view, directionally, Pakistan is set in the right course. Thank you, Abbas Saab. So moving on to the next question, Khurram, to yourself. And this is just to be in the interest of the overall panel time allocation. So I'm just trying to merge, I'll just merge a few questions. So starting with yourself, Khurram, what are the sectors in your view? So you've created your diagnosis, you've laid the foundations for the course correction. What sectors in your view are the most untapped, and what policy or private sectors triggers can unlock them?
I think right now, these days there are two areas in particular, one of which qualifies as a sector. I'm not sure if the other one does, but nevertheless I'll share it. There are two sectors that I think have unusual amount of promise to be drivers of transformative change, not just incremental but transformative kind of change. One is power, and what's happening in the power sector with the influx of solar generation, and now we are ready to move into the next generation of that revolution, of the renewable energy revolution, with solar plus battery. Now that batteries are set to enter Pakistan in a very large way, the way solar panels entered Pakistan over the past 10 years. And I think electric vehicles may well serve as the spearhead to bring batteries and their transformation potential to Pakistan. I think opening the door to this revolution is very important. I think for the government to embrace the revolution, to look down the road and say what role can we play now to put in place the requirements that the revolution will need to make itself sustainable in the future. For example, if we are going to be moving into electric vehicles today, 5 years down the road, there's going to be a big demand. There will begin a big demand for the refurbishment of electric batteries. Maybe it's a good idea to start providing the right incentives to set up battery reconditioning plants and industry as well at this point in time. So 5 years down the road, when that demand begins to come in, the industry is ready at that point. What kind of revolution, what kind of help can the government provide to increase electric vehicle charging stations around the country, for example? There are many, many things. I don't want to list all of them.
So in terms of the sectors, one is renewable energy and
one
the
is
revolution.
renewable. The other is digital payments. I think over there, that's an untapped sector, and I think it can play a very large role, not only in helping create or give an impetus to the next generation of business activity, but also in helping document the economy.
Brilliant. So it's renewable energy, transition from brown to green, working on the sustainability of we have the new Pakistan Green Taxonomy. It aligns to that. Digital payments, a means for financial inclusion, and at the same time documentation of economy. Moving on to yourself, Ali. So as an economist who has been tracking real indicators, what are the early signs, if any, that Pakistan is turning the corner toward recovery, or what would be those signs when you as an economist would feel that yes, we are now moving from stabilization to growth?
That's a very good question. So since we lack imagination and we are moving on the past growth model, as I said, so we need to take a clue from the past. So if we go back to the Musharraf time, that we ran 5 years of 5 consecutive years of fiscal primary surplus from 1999 to 2004. So the 5 years of that, so we ran that, and then we got some geopolitical dividends coming up from there after 9/11 and all that. So and we did some kind of a reform at that time. So reform was in the banking, deregulation of the telecom and oil and gas. So that opened up new services sector, especially in the telecom and banking, and we saw a boom in it. So and then that is followed by like 3 good years of growth. And solid FDI coming in before they really damaged it in the last year, and for political reasons and also. So we are approaching that. So we still need one more year. I think it's 27, 28, FY 28. After running the primary fiscal surplus this year and next year, and we would remain a growth of below 4%, then we can move up from 4 to 6%, 7% growth, and we may see some FDI coming in, and we may be with the changing geopolitical situation and all that, all the dialogue you had today on it, you will have today on it, so that there will be a room for it. So I think that's one area, and of course, with the Khurram talk about that we need to unleash new sectors in it. One is the renewable energy, where there are lots of changes that, and new energy vehicle, where this only manufacturing sector where we have a car capacity, production capacity of 500,000, and last year we sold about 150,000 cars. Still we see new plants coming up. BYD is coming up. Capital Smart Motors have announced that. Best Way is buying and Fortron old plants. So the new car companies are coming up, and new energy companies are coming up in it. And someone is really thinking about the manufacturing of the solar panels here by importing cells and all that. So we are moving in that direction. All the government need to facilitate on that. And then the other area which is very important we need to work on is that we need to fix the energy sector. We have higher energy in the south, which is a low marginal cost energy, and we have issues of transmitting those energy from south to north, where supposedly the load center is. So what we need to see is we need to provide opportunity of more industries to house in south, and with the proximity of port, they importing and re-exporting is easy as well, and provide the energy at the marginal cost over there, rather than provide a marginal cost energy all over the country, where the political decision, where the Punjab dominance come into play, that we cannot have like let the Punjab industry to pay higher rate than the law, than the Sindh. We need to get out of the fixation of this, and we should provide energy cheap where you have cheap energy sources available. So if we fix those issues and we keep on continuing on those tight fiscal monetary policy, we'll get a growth path on that. All we need to do is how would we pay way, how would move on to that, and of course energy sector you need to deregulate. The way we deregulate, just to finish in the thought on that deregulation, and just to take a clue from what Shabbar said about that, the K electric and all that. So we need to deal with the K electric case very carefully. There are issues on the both side, the management side as well as on the government side as well. There is a fracture board over there. There is a split in the board, all that, and that is really making the problem. So we need to solve the problem of the board. we need to fix the problem in the management as well, and we need to rationalize that if the 32 or 39, if both are not workable, so we need to come here somewhere, and we need to give an example how the Karachi to run, and then we that way for the rest of the discourse to work on.
Thank you, Ali. So Ali, the three takeaways for me. Number one is again endorsing what Khurram had mentioned around the transition and more investment coming into the renewable sector. So if I can just say that probably more FDI coming, representing more confidence from investors outside Pakistan. The other point that you made, in your view, there's still another year, comparing it with the 99-2004 cycle, where 5 years of continued primary surplus leads to that confidence that yes, now we can be more, let's say, adventurous or innovative or less protective in terms of our growth ambition. And last but not the least, you've talked about deregulation as a principle. So, Shabir Saab, I think this will be the final question for today, and we can take a question if the organizers allow. Looking ahead 5 to 10 years from now, so you have seen the entire 60-70 year Pakistan economic history. And you've published so many books. And in your view, you would have some success visualization that if this is what are the indicators for you, then the economy has done well and is now not on stabilization, but sustained and inclusive growth to continue. So looking ahead those 5 to 10 years, would you like to share how success looks like for you?
If you look at today and you see 10 years ahead, as I said in my earlier discourse, that what we have developed over the time is a consensus on the diagnostic or the consensus on the problems. There has been a substantial improvement in the knowledge base of the people at large, and dissemination of that knowledge base to the policy makers for that correction. The realization on the part of the political elite that they have to deliver substantially in the service sector if they want to survive politically. I believe there is a realization to that effect. The fourth thing is that there is a external stability or the external factors which are giving support to the Pakistan overall environment of stability for the time being and for the years to come. If these 4 or 5 things which have happened over the time mature and they continue to improve in this manner, then we can expect a positive sign. Let me give you just one example, and that will give you an idea about that. That there has been a public acceptance that the tax rate on companies and individual is high. Now, I am not saying, Khurram is not saying, Khizr is not saying, Prime Minister is saying that the rate of tax is high. He is accepting the issue, the rate of tax on salary is high. So there is a very serious realization that the tax is not absorbable, the consumers cannot absorb this kind of tax. This has been realized by the very high top level people. There has been a realization There has been a realization that that the overall consumers are suffering because of these things. So that will translate, that is translating into real answers to this. But again I am saying that there are certain factors which need to be further clarified to the people. One is that we came with a slogan. We came with the slogan that state should be small. The role of state should be small. But that was not an absolute statement. It was a relative statement. The state should be small in doing businesses. But state cannot be small in giving education. State cannot be small in giving transportation. State cannot be small in giving housing. State cannot be small in giving medical services. So we got this idea of a small state somewhere from Chicago School of Economics or somewhere from Harvard School of Economics and say state should condense, and our people start saying state should be small, and we said privatize this school and privatize this school, and we started saying state should be small. And this is exactly what has happened in New York yesterday. That person is saying state should be bigger. They have frozen the rent. What is saying? What does it mean? The state has intervened in New York, and they say the state should be there. The America, which was the center of private sector industry, the slogan of private sector, that person is saying, I will freeze the rents in New York. What does it mean? Is it a socialism? So America has become socialist? What you are saying? Has it become socialist? So what I am trying to say, there were propagation of the wrong notions in Pakistan by the people who came with a briefcase from USA, became Prime Minister of Pakistan and went back to the USA.
So thank you much, Abasab. I think this is a fantastic point, that while there is realization with the decision makers about which leads to the consensus that you're talking about, but for the role of the state, when we talk about it to be small, it's only in the matter of running businesses and not other places. Thank you, Shabasa. So just one quick fire round, half a second, in just one word, starting with Ali yourself. What, in your view, is the biggest risk in terms of derailing this direction? Just one word.
Desperation to have the growth earlier than where the system allows.
So desperation for growth. Khurram, from your side?
Yeah, I'd second that. Desperation for growth can derail things very badly.
Consensus. Now we have the third. Shabasab, yourself.
The risk is that this consensus is broken.
Brilliant. So I think it's a wonderful takeaway. So continue with the consensus, continue with the direction, and not break this consensus or be desperate for growth, which means continue with the stabilization and embark on the growth journey at the right time. Thank you very much. I think a big round of applause up till now for the insights that have been shared by the panel. So is there time for a question? I see an individual holding a mic.
We'll take the question afterwards. We'll all be here during lunch, so we can take it offline. We are running a bit short of time. Thank you so much for your understanding. Thank you very much, Asad. We're just going to it was a very informative session, but before we close this, I would like to invite Mr. Imran Halim Sheikh, who is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Bank Islami Pakistan Limited, a leader known for his vision in advancing Islamic banking and sustainable financial growth, to come and give the vote of thanks, please. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Imran Halim Sheikh. Do we have Mr. Imran Halim Sheikh here? Or has I don't think he's arrived as yet. All right. Okay, so we'll Just to wrap up this session, I think as all the eminent panelists just said, okay, so we have Mr. Imran Halim Sheikh here. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Imran Halim Sheikh. He'll come and deliver the vote of thanks. So.
Hello. Assalamualaikum. I, on my right side of Jack's pocket, in my coat pocket, I have the speech which I've made from the chat GPT, which I'm not taking out. Because especially Shabir Saab ko dekh ke na, chat GPT ki speech mein maza nahi aayega mujhe, to talk about that. So, jo mera left side ka pocket hai, usmein kuch bhi nahi hai. So I would speak impromptu because आप सबका मुंह देख के मुझे नजर आ गया भूखे हैं लंच के लिए आपको खाना खाना है so I won't keep a gap between the food and myself. I will just say a few points. Thank you, great talk. आपने उस टाइम ये स्पीच रखी है असफर जब इस्लामाबाद में 27वीं अमेंडमेंट हो गई है so it's I can't say it's as important as 27th amendment but I can say it is somewhat important as the 27th Amendment. Few points. Number one is the gentleman sitting on my left, Khurram, Asad, Shabir Saab, and Ali, are very dear friends of mine. So a lot of respect for them. I've learned a lot of things from them. And इससे पहले जो हमारी बात हुई थी on the financial and Islamic resilience, amazing topics. I just want to say one thing which you should take from here. That we spoke about a lot of things, all positive, what should be done in the industry. Most of us know what should be done in the industry. The gap is in implementation. पता हमें सब कुछ है कि क्या सही है और क्या गलत है. Issue क्या है? Implementation का issue है. इस पे मैं example आपको दूंगा. I had some honor of working with the government of Pakistan. तो I used to work with the Prime Minister Shahid Awasi as a chief of staff. So मैंने शाहिद साहब से एक दिन कहा सर हम सुबह 9 बजे आते हैं आप और रात को 10 बजे जाते हैं. एंड उस ज़माने में एयरफोर्स चीफ थे सोहेल अमान साहब जो सामने बैठे हुए हैं. मैंने कहा सर आप भी सुबह 8 बजे आ जाते हैं एयर हेड क्वार्टर्स में और रात को 9 बजे आप जाते हैं. ऑन द कॉन्ट्री हम पेंटागन गए वो सुबह 8 बजे आते थे 4 बजे जाते थे. एंड इवन ट्रम्प यूज्ड टू कम एट 8 and go at 4. But US was going आगे and we were going पीछे. So I used to also say very famously the 7 a.m. PIA flight which goes from Karachi to Islamabad. आधे लोग अपना काम करने जाते हैं, बाकी आधे उनका काम खराब करने जाते हैं. So that's a mindset by the way. I'm on that we could have kept an Oxford Union class here. But what's the point of speaking so much English if you can't communicate it to your local, your people outside in the streets? The last thing. Thank you. Thank you. So please, this is not a test of English. It's a test of your aptitude. This is a test of your Pakistaniyat. This is a test of what you want to do with the country. So please, communicate this to your teams. मैं अभी 2-3 स्टॉल्स पे गया बाहर. बहुत अच्छे स्टॉल्स थे बैंक्स के. मैंने कहा आपके बैंक के प्रेसिडेंट का नाम क्या है? 4 बंदों को अपने बैंक के प्रेसिडेंट का नाम नहीं पता था. मैंने रिकॉर्ड किया हुआ है आप चाहें तो why we communicated in English here या जब उनको ही आपने बात नहीं बताई कि आप हैं कौन. मुफ्ती साहब जिसने बड़ी अच्छी स्पीच की उनका नाम भी नहीं पता था उसी के स्टॉल में कि आपका मुफ्ती का नाम क्या है. एनीवेज लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट आई वाज इन सखर. आई एम फ्रॉम सखर. मैं वापसी में सखर से कराची आ रहा था बाय रोड मैं और मेरा ड्राइवर. तो मुझे कोई प्यास लगी. मैंने कहा यार कहीं चाय पीते हैं और पानी पीते हैं. हमने गाड़ी रोकी खैरपुर के सामने रोड साइड में छाप रहा था चाय पी. वहाँ पे चाय वाले ने मुझे जब तक वो चाय बना रहा था कुछ 15 मिनट में मुझे बता दिया कि सर क्या मसला है. आपको पता है आर्मी का ये इशू है, एयरफोर्स का ये इशू है और ये जो पाकिस्तान की क्रिकेट टीम है ना इससे ये करना चाहिए. उसके बाद उसने मुझे कहा कि स्टेट बैंक के गवर्नर ने भी ये करना चाहिए और फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को ये सारी बातें उससे बताई. उसके बाद उससे बहुत अच्छी बात बताई मुझे कि ट्रंप और इमरान खान में क्या इशू है, क्यों नहीं मसला सॉल्व होगा. अच्छा 15 मिनट के बाद जो उसने मुझे चाय दी ना वो बहुत ही बेहुदा थी, एक फिजूल. और मैंने उसके हाथ पकड़े. मैंने कहा जो तेरा काम है तुझे नहीं आता, बाकी तुझे सब कुछ आता है. दिस इज़ द इशू ऑफ पाकिस्तान. हमें सब पता है कि मसले कैसे सॉल्व करने हैं, बाकी जो अंग्रेज़ी बोलना है ना, ये हमसे नहीं निकलती. Anyways, Pakistan Zindabad, Nutshell Pindabad, thank you Aswar for creating this forum and bringing us together. Let's aim to be one. ये जो बाकी बैंक्स में हमने जंगें रखी हुई हैं बाकी इंस्टीट्यूशन में कि ये प्रोडक्ट हमने इसको नहीं बताना, वो प्रोडक्ट इसको नहीं बताना, इस तरह बैंक आगे नहीं जा सकते, इस तरह पाकिस्तान आगे नहीं जा सकता. अगर अपने पाकिस्तान को आगे रखना है तो आपने एक होना है, और ये बड़ी बेसिक बात है. थैंक यू ऑल ऑफ यू. वेलकम टू द लंच.
बहुत शुक्रिया इमरान साहब, और आपने शब्बर जैदी साहब को टफ टाइम दे दिया. आपके जो कमेंट्स थे बड़े बोल्ड और कैंडिड थे, बट अप्रिशिएटेड. थैंक यू वेरी मच. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of this session, and I know we are all waiting for lunch, and after lunch we have a long session, the final closing, and a very important one with some amazing guests. So I would request all of you to come back after lunch and attend that session. But before we close this, we need to have a souvenir presentation ceremony. For that, I would like to call upon stage the man who brought us all together here, Mr. Asfar Ehsan, the chairman and founder, Nutshell Group. Can we have him on stage, please? Asfar Saab is a big inspiration. Unaiza Ali, the chief operating officer, Middle East Nutshell. Mehrunissa Azhar, the chief operating officer, Pakistan Nutshell. Thank you. All right. Sir.
सॉरी, मैं एक बात कहना चाह रहा था. एफडीआई कभी भी अट्रैक्ट नहीं कर सकते, और एग्जिस्टिंग इन्वेस्टर में फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स भी हैं जो पाकिस्तान में ऑलरेडी पैसे लगा चुके हैं, और वो पाकिस्तानी इन्वेस्टर्स भी हैं जो पाकिस्तान में ऑलरेडी काम कर रहे हैं. अगर हम दुनिया की टॉप एफडीआई कंट्रीज़ का डाटा निकाल के देखें पिछले 20-25 साल का, तो ऑल देयर गवर्नमेंट्स अलाउड द एग्जिस्टिंग इन्वेस्टर टू क्रिएट वेल्थ. उन्होंने उनको लीगली प्रोटेक्ट किया, पॉलिसी कंटिन्यूशन हुई, बेहतर टैक्स सिस्टम था, बेहतर गवर्नेंस थी. तो सबसे पहले अपने घर पे फोकस करें. जो इन्वेस्टर्स यहाँ पर हैं उनको जब तक आप उनकी हैंड होल्डिंग नहीं करेंगे, जब तक आप उनको वेल्थ क्रिएट नहीं करने देंगे, जब तक आप एक प्रॉपर गवर्नेंस सिस्टम कायम नहीं करेंगे, ये एफडीआई का जो मंत्रा है ये सिर्फ एक मंत्रा ही रहेगा. ये बात मैं बहुत रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी से कह रहा हूँ, और यही हमारा असल सोल्यूशन है.
थैंक यू साहब. ओके जी, सोवेनियर प्रेजेंटेशन करेंगे. सबसे पहले आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट सैयद मोहम्मद शब्बर जैदी साहब टू कलेक्ट हिज सोवेनियर फ्रॉम असफर एहसन साहब, द चेयरमैन and founder, Nutshell Group. Khurram Hussain Saab, senior journalist, business and economy, will be collecting a souvenir. Ali Khizar Saab, Director Research, Business Recorder. Asad Hamid Khan Saab, the country head ACCA Pakistan and the moderator for this session. Imran Halim Sheikh Saab, the Deputy CEO, Bank Islami Pakistan Limited, who delivered the iconic vote of thanks. And can we have the group photograph now, please? I would request all the panelists to... एक बात और
ये इमरान हलीम शेख ने जो बातें की हैं बड़ी ज़बरदस्त बातें थी, लेकिन इनके बारे में सिर्फ एक बात कहता हूँ, और मेरा अपना तजुर्बा है पिछले 25 साल का, कि जब मेरा कोई काम नहीं हो रहा होता ना पाकिस्तान के किसी भी इदारे में या किसी भी एरिया में, तो एक बंदा इमरान हलीम शेख जिसको मैं फ़ोन करता हूँ, काम हो जाता है.
जी, ग्रुप फोटोग्राफ प्लीज़. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We break for lunch and we assemble here at 2:30. Thank you very much. Jazakallah.